Hello and welcome to American Music, where we live our stories through the shared experiences of artists and scholars and storytellers. I'm Randall Keith Horton, and today's guest is Toure. He is a marvelous international author, commentator, music critic, television personality. When I went on his website, I saw him with his arms around all these figures like Lady Gaga and this one and that one. I can't even, you'll see it in a minute. Toure, glad you're with us, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and welcome. We're really glad you're here.
Thank you.
Great. We're going to talk about mostly the music of Prince and Michael Jackson. That was sort of what I got out of when I read your book. And I was remembering, now wait a minute, I remember when Prince when he hit.
Yeah.
And I had just been working with Michael and them, and I said, well, who is this cat? Wait a minute. And you know what, man? I just talked to the chairman of the Department of Television here at Brooklyn College. She was from Minneapolis.
Okay.
And she went to the high school that Prince attended.
Oh, wow.
And so he was a hero right there in Minneapolis. She just told me that outside about 15 minutes ago.
I mean, look, Minneapolis isn't that big. So
Yeah.
most of the people in Minneapolis have some connection. They knew him when he was young.
Yeah.
They knew his dad. They saw his mom. I found somebody who remembered seeing Prince and his grandmother in church together. You know, just so I was able to establish some religious background.
Wow.
Because he grew up a Seventh-day Adventist. We think of him as a witness,
Yeah,
which he
Jehovah's
is
Witness.
now.
Yeah.
But he grew up a Seventh-day Adventist, and some of that, affects some of the music and is part of some of the music. And the Adventists told me that the Black Adventist tradition is extremely musical. There's a lot of singers who've come out of that.
Very serious, too,
yeah. Almost anybody who spent any significant time in Minneapolis has some Prince story or some Prince family story that they're able to tell. Yeah.
Well, that just came to us through the chairperson of the department here at Brooklyn College.
See, if I was still working on my book, I'd be like, let me talk to her
right.
and see like what she saw, or maybe she's got a brother who's still there who's like, yeah, I saw Prince in a club one night or whatever. Like,
yeah, right. Now he's mentioning his book. The book you see on your screen now, I Would Die for You, How Prince Became an Icon. Is that the right title?
Why Prince became
an icon.
Yeah.
That is what we're going to be discussing today. This is Toure's book. It's well received internationally, and we're so happy that he's here. Let's give a little bit of a bio for Toure. Toure is an American writer, a music journalist, a cultural critic, and a television personality. He was the co-host of the TV show The Cycle on MSNBC and was also a contributor to MSNBC's The Dylan Ratigan Show and the host of Fuse's Hip Hop Shop. He serves on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominating committee. He taught a course in the history of hip-hop at the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music, part of the Tisch School of the Arts in New York. Toure is the author of several books, including The Portable Promised Land, Soul City, Who's Afraid of Post-Blackness, What It Means to Be Black Now, and I Would Die for You, Why Prince Became an Icon. And we will discuss that book in today's episode. It's really quite an honor and a lot of fun to be with Toure in this interview today, and we're going to talk about several things about Prince and also touch upon Michael Jackson. And who else? I ask you, who else would have that biography? There's no one on the planet. No one on the planet. So, brother, educate us. Talk about Prince. My first question for you, I guess, is why did you write the book? I mean, that's a kind of a dumb question, but still.
No. I mean, there's usually an interesting origin story behind a lot of books.
Yeah.
I was working on the book that I published before that, Who's Afraid of Post-Blackness, in which I talked to 105 black people about what it means to be black. And of course, I had to talked to my friend Skip Gates about his thoughts about what it means to be black now.
Yes.
And at the end of we met in his office in Harvard and had a really nice time. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, well, you know, why don't you come back next year and do these lectures? They do an annual series of lectures where you do 3 lectures on a given subject. I could have chosen to do on culture or on politics. I chose to do something on culture, and I said, okay, I'll do lectures about Prince and his relationship to America.
Wow.
And his relationship to the generation Generation X, which really sort of is his main core group of fans, even though he's a late boomer. And I chose that partly because Prince is a very deep and rich and varied subject that will allow me to get into a lot of sociology around what's going on in America.
You did.
But also, you know, you're going to do something like that. You are living in that world for a year or two and listening to Prince and thinking about Prince all the time. So I needed a subject that I would be thrilled to sort of like, you know, be immersed in for years. You don't want to, you know, do a book on somebody like that and like, I'm tired of listening to Elvis. You know, it's been like a year. I can't, you know, I mean, I came through this 2-year period listening deeply and often to Prince songs, and I come out of it not saying like, oh, enough of Prince. I'm like, I'm still like there. I still want more.
Drawn in,
so I did the 3. You do 1 lecture a day for 3 days, and I did the 3 lectures. And I mean, I worked on it for a year, and I did the lectures. It was well received, and I said, all right, let me try to spruce this up some more and make a book out of it.
Excellent, yeah. You say in the introduction of the book something to the effect that some artists or some social figures can influence society and influence those who are in their generation.
Yeah.
But it takes a little bit more to become, did you say an icon?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. And you have to do what to do that?
Well, you know, I mean,
that was very interesting.
A star is somebody who everybody knows.
Right.
I mean, everybody knows who Brad Pitt is, or you know, Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
But an icon is something more. It's not just a household name. It's somebody who influences people and really becomes sort of a symbol of who the people are and who we are at that moment in history. And Prince is somebody who gets to that extra level, that he sort of represents us and who we are. And this moment in the 80s when he was on fire, it really says a lot about who we are, that he existed and that we loved him. Like one of the things that I talk about, you know, all these sort of generations, we talk about the baby boomers, the Gen X, whatever, millennials. These are not just sort of randomized groupings of people. There are time periods in which things happen that everybody who lives in that time period, who's about, you know, the same age in that time period, give or take 10 years, is affected by.
Exactly.
Everybody who was an adult or a young adult during the 60s was impacted by that time. You know, everybody who's a young adult during like the rise of the internet is affected by that time.
Bravo.
So for Generation X, what is the thing that links everybody? And I'm not sure there's an event a public event that is the same as divorce, right? That the divorce rate skyrockets for children of Generation X, right? Versus the baby boomers, right? And it comes down again slightly when you get into the millennial generation. So Gen X is massively affected by divorce, as well as the number of latchkey kids, as well as the number of kids who are semi-latchkey or semi-divorced, and that their parents are boomers and they're like, I want to experience myself, I want to see what the world has to offer, and they're less in their kid's life than had been common a generation earlier. And these kids are experiencing Prince, who is a child of divorce, who is a child of go and do whatever you want to do. He didn't live in his parents' home from the age of 12. You know, he's out gigging in clubs, including strip clubs, at like 14. So what happens when you're able to go out and do whatever you want and your parents aren't always hanging over you? Well, Prince is like the nth degree of what happens to that. So all these kids who are experiencing divorce are, you know, just one aspect looking at Prince and saying, wow, that's you know, that's where this could all lead. But also the increased sexuality of the 80s, right? The rise of, you know, of you know, more porn than we'd ever seen, of Dr. Ruth.
The pill had happened.
The pill, right? I mean, you know, the sort of the rise of sort of you know, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, like just sort of the normalization of sort of soft porn, right? And Prince is part of that and pushing that envelope even further. And it makes sense that he would fit and hit in the 80s. In the 70s, it would have been different. In the 90s, it would have been different. But in the 80s, he fit perfectly.
And you made a point in the book also that saying that he had the gift to be able to perceive all of that.
Yeah.
To see that.
I mean, there's certain people who just have a certain gift to be able to pick up, you know, the zeitgeist as if through antenna.
Yep.
And, you know, you're talking about Prince, Kurt Cobain, you know, maybe the Wachowski brothers, like, you know, Tarantino. I mean, this happens very rarely, but occasionally, you know, something strikes a certain person, they are the right age, they are feeling the culture, and they're able to create a body of work that really speaks to and shapes the culture.
Now, what's powerful about your perception and your observation is what you say about religion amongst these Gen Xers and how Prince combined what, let's say people in traditional religious structured church philosophy and outlook would say would be the flesh and the spirit. People in that whole tradition would totally differently define the relationship between those two than how it was defined by Prince as an interpreter of what was developing and prominent in the outlook of Gen Xers in non-religious contexts. Can you relate that to us?
I mean, you know, you see with Gen X, statistically, we see people are going to church less, people are less attached to traditional religion,
structured,
but they still want spirituality, and a lot of people are searching for spirituality in other ways, through yoga, through meditation. Some are looking for that sort of spiritual engagement or communal engagement through more traditional working out, right? You see the rise of clubs, because we're looking for that moment of spiritual ecstasy, right? And sort of the connection to the community that we used to get from church, right?
Let me interrupt you just for a quick second. Connect that with what had come before with Timothy Leary and all of that influence. That was before that. But connect that with us for us too. Connect that.
Well, I mean, you know, there's always a search for, you know, something greater than us, and some people are looking for that in the church. Some people are looking for that, you know, out of, you know, we'll call it new agey spiritual methods like a meditation or a yoga. Some people are looking through it through psychedelics, you know, other forms of consciousness and other levels of being. And, you know, I think they're all reasonable and they're all different approaches to this confounding thing called life. And, you know, look, if you look through Prince's music, right, the sexual stuff gets all the headlines, right? That, you know, Darling Nikki, you know, leaps off the page. Oh my God, listen to what this guy did. But there's so many songs about God, you know, about spirituality, that he takes these very seriously, to where I feel like he's almost like the sex is a loss leader to get you in the door, to then get you to the real message, which is God is real. You need to care about God. You need to repent. You need, you know, and not a specific message, although he's clearly Christian rather than, you know, Jewish or Muslim. But, you know, he's the God message, the importance of God is extremely important. And you see in some of the songs, the relationship between God, spirituality, and sex is very real. They're not two bifurcated things. I mean, like in
they're one in some ways.
In Adore, he's talking about you know, we're making love and the angels are crying. So it's not like we have to have sex and then hide, you know, put up a sheet and hide God away from it because this is dirty. Like, no, God wants us to have great sex.
Of it,
and that, you know, and he's quite often presenting himself as a sort of Jesus figure. And he did this publicly and privately.
That's your chapter. I Am Your Messiah, is that it? Ladies and gentlemen, you really need to read this book, I Would Die For You, by Toure, and how Prince became an icon. Why Prince, I'll get it. Why Prince became an icon. It's very important that the two chapters are related very, very closely. I remember what you wrote in the chapter preceding that indicated the feminine and masculine
Yeah.
in his expression, in his music,
Yeah.
in the context of making love.
Yeah.
And now, this is important because, again, the idea is that what he is doing is not allowing a singularity around the image or the expression or the acceptance of masculinity.
Look, before
what he's doing is feminine,
Before we started talking
and
about
masculine, both.
multiculturalism, way before we started talking about breaking down gender norms and these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Prince was talking about, you're not going to put me in a box, right? I'm going to be whatever I want to be. Am I straight or gay? I'm wearing women's clothes. Does that make me that? Like, I'm unboxable.
Yeah,
and it's a very powerful message. It was a very 80s message. You saw that from other people who were playing in that space.
That's
Madonna's also playing with some of that, and you saw a lot of men, from the Pet Shop Boys to Boy George to others, Depeche Mode, who were like wearing makeup, playing with gender norms and these sort of things.
Exactly.
And is this a real man? Is this also a man? Like, and they're saying yes.
Yeah.
And men can do whatever they want and play with gender the way that women have always been able, or long been able to play with gender.
Right.
Prince was sort of majorly a part of that.
Right. Tearing down these barriers. And I wish we had another half hour or hour. The idea of how he also tore down barriers around the race issue.
Sure.
In terms of his marketing. You make really great points about that in the book. In terms of his mastery.
Well, people should know that Prince is not mixed.
Yeah.
I've spoken to people.
I thought he was, man. Yeah.
Everybody thought he was. I mean, he wanted us to think he was mixed. In the 80s, mixed person.
Meaning biracial folks.
Exactly. Yeah. A biracial person was more, in the 80s, it was more exciting. It was more sticky. It was more like, ooh, that gave him an extra frisson of excitement that he was mixed. It was rarer on the national stage. Now it's not such a big deal. But he told people, he told some of the early journalists that he was mixed, right? He would usually say that his mother was white, right? And in Purple Rain, they present his mother as white.
That's right.
They never say anything,
That's
right?
right.
It's never pointed out,
Yeah.
but there she is.
That's right.
So he just subtly is letting us feel like, and one thing you see in journalism, that when you go to do a story on somebody, you read the previous work. And if something is presented as a fact, you don't necessarily question it. If I was the 5th person to interview Prince, I would have read the first four stories. They're all saying Prince is mixed. I wouldn't question that. I wouldn't ask him, are you mixed?
I see.
So, when you tell the first 2 journalists that you're mixed, you don't have to tell anybody else because then it perpetuates itself.
Exactly,
but I talked to people who met his mother. Okay. She was black, right? And we know John Nelson, his father, was black, right? Just sort of ethnographically, right? His mother moved from the projects of New Orleans to the projects of Minneapolis. She had a twin sister. They were both known for playing basketball. When she was in her early 20s, she was singing, a jazz singer who would sing in the club, in the band with John Nelson, right, his father. She started dating and then married John, who was like 20 years her senior, who already had a family. Now,
was married.
Had been married previously. Had a previous family, right? Prince has older siblings.
Exactly.
But I mean, does that sound in the 50s like a young white woman being a jazz singer and a basketball player in the projects and marry a much older black man who already has a family?
Excuse me.
Like, I mean, like,
hello.
It could happen, but I think Occam's razor would say, yeah, that person is probably black. And then to end the argument, I know people who met her while she was alive, and yes, she was black.
Absolutely.
But he wanted us to think of him as mixed. It was great for marketing. It unboxed him. It made him sexier. It made him more dangerous.
And
it made him more interesting.
He didn't want to be stuck in the Chitlin circuit.
No, he was very clear on that. I don't want to be the Soul Train guy. I don't want to be doing the Apollo. I want everything. I want to be a pop guy. I want the world.
Right.
Which, you know, at that time, every label had a black music division.
Yep.
So generally, black people would work there. The budgets were smaller. They would promote artists to black media and, you know, black venues, right?
That goes way back.
Yeah,
that goes way back.
Absolutely. Well, that, I mean, in the early 70s, a Harvard report told CBS that you would be better off if you had a specific black music department.
Oh, I see.
So then that led to the rise of black music departments, right, in all these labels. So, but Prince is one of the folks who saw, this is not good for me. I don't want to be part of the smaller budget. I don't want to be part of, you know, an audience that could be this big. I want this much.
All of it, exactly.
And he fought to get it.
That's excellent, excellent, excellent. And you're making me think of what I remember about those smaller record labels and what they were stuck with, and how that goes all the way back to Clarence Williams in the 1920s, the first Black Swan record label, and then how Race Records came forward through the big band era and all that stuff. But let's do this. Let's change gears.
Okay.
And I want to connect something you said about the identity issue and talk about Michael Jackson.
Sure.
And when you and I were communicating about doing this interview, one of the things I was so excited about was, hey man, maybe we can get a chance to talk about Prince, where this is your strength. I mean, many strengths that you have, but this book, you know, I Would Die For You, is so powerful. What it connected me with was my working with Michael and living in their home in LA.
What did you do for Michael?
All right, Joe Jackson was starting a new record label.
Okay.
Ivory Tower International Records.
This is when?
This is in '74.
Okay.
I had just left Ellington's orchestra, and the Jacksons had heard about me being with Duke. Something happened, blah, 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 got me into their home. I mean, there I was, you know. And Michael and I were tight. And Brother Toure, man, I want to tell you, bro, Michael Jackson was a tough little dude.
Wait, so how old is he at this point?
He was 14, okay? Had a big natural, you know what I mean? Dark brown skin,
when he had
big old
acne?
nose. No, before that, no.
Before he had that?
Before he had all that. And he was just, one day, man, we were out in back of his house, okay, at the swimming pool. Their recording studio was by the swimming pool. Here was the swimming pool, and then the house is here. So we just finished a session. We're all there, and this kid walks up to me. He says, "Hey, Randy." He just walked over to me and punched me in the chest. Almost
Michael
killed me.
Jackson?
That's why I'm telling you this, brother.
Michael Jackson punched you in the chest?
I'm telling you this.
Why? Because
he was having fun. He was a hard, tough, scrabbling little kid. I'm telling you that, brother.
And it hurt.
It almost killed me. I want you to know that, man. It almost killed me. And then he went and running away. You know, I got up on the diving board of the pool. He ran up behind me, boom, pushed me into the pool. This kid was, I want you to know that, man. And I'll share other stuff with you.
So wait, did he take as good as he got? Like if you pushed him in the pool, would you find that funny?
Oh yeah. Brother Toure, that is why I'm sharing this story with you, man. Does this agree with the image of Michael? No.
Well, you experienced, I mean, just
okay.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah, it really was incredible. Well,
what else did he say or do to you? I mean, like
he told me how much he was so appreciative of what Berry Gordy and Diana did for them, and he knew that he and his brothers saved Motown, in his expressed opinion.
But how long? What ages was he when you were with him?
He was 14, maybe 13, 14, and then just subtract from there. I think Marlon was the next one, Randy.
No, he was 14 until you were with them for how long?
I was just for a few months. It was just off and on. Yeah, just for a few months.
Because that 14-year-old period is really interesting because he's moving from the super quick child success.
That's right.
And then the young adult success, but the teenage years were a little bit of a. I mean, did you see that sense of like, we're like, what's going to happen? Where am I going?
No, not at all. We have to wrap it up, man. You see where we are now? This is the end of the show, man. This is the end of the show.
But what happened to Michael Jackson?
Well, let's go down the street and have a drink and talk about it, okay?
The people want to know about Michael Jackson.
Let's go hang out. I know, but we've got to stop.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Toure, hey, man.
Hey.
Beautiful, bro.
Nice to see you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We have been honored. We have been absolutely honored to have Toure as our guest, international commentator, scholar, wonderful soul, wonderful brother. And we hope that he'll come back again. We hope that he'll be on the program as the program grows. Thank you for watching American Music, for being with us. My name is Randall Keith Horton, and this is where we live our stories through public television. Join us again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
To qualify as an original song score, a score must contain 5 original songs.
Songs that serve a dramatic purpose, that move the story along.
So the nominees for Best Original Song Score are, for The Muppets Take Manhattan, Jeff Moss.
For Purple Rain, Prince.
And for songwriter Chris Christopherson. And the winner of a brand new '84 Oscar is...
The winner is Prince for Purple Rain.
Thank you very much. This is Lisa, and this is Wendy. Hold it.
Love to.
This is very unbelievable. I could have never imagined this in my wildest dreams, and I would like to thank the Academy, Mr. Albert Magnoli, my manager Stephen, Bob, Joe, Bobby, Mark, and Matt, who couldn't be with us today, and most of all, God. Thank you very much.
Thank you.